Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
His voice was one of fortitude, theophyter who transformed agony into platinum number of hits. However, concealed beneath gelatin rolls and tattoos and triumphs, a silent conflict was one that he concealed from even himself was unfolding. Individuals, who are his dearest supporters. And then, a solitary moment, it was all shattered wide open backstage, and his entire crew was affected by the events that transpired, agitated. The indicators were present, however, they failed to would anyone have noticed, in a timely manner. For an extended period of time, Jelly Roll has been more than a mere chart-leading artist. He has served as a representation of survival. From the confines of prison cells to this voyage reads like a Grammy stage, screenplay, gritty, unprocessed, and replete with heart. However, even the most powerful voices have the potential to dimuituagi. Weight becomes excessive, causing the structure to fracture. Additionally, Jelly Roll has been bearing a burden that is significantly more sinister than anyone could have envisioned. Sources who are in close proximity to the A-Country rap artist has disclosed that he has been profoundly affected by recent events. Fundamental. During his sold-out performance, his admirers cheered, shows, and commemorated his mainstream breakthrough. Jelly Roll was discreetly struggling with a personal crisis. A single. This posed a hazard to not only his career, but his relationships, his health, and even his determination to persist. It was not a public crisis or a tabloid scandal. Was something more profound, more human, something that resonates with the core battles that he has consistently sung about. Anxiety, addiction, and the haunting ghosts of trauma that are never completely resolved vanish. He has suggested in interviews that the return of the gloomy days. However, no one was aware just how near to the edge he truly was up until this point. According to insiders, the incident originated with minor modifications, canceled and missed messages, appearances, a distant expression in his gaze. However, the event that marked a turning point was a private emergency that compelled him to confronting all that he believed to be his conquered. A moment that was so profound that it lasted those in his vicinity are apprehensive about the potential consequences. Furthermore, nevertheless, he persevered and executed his actions. Consistently. Maintain a confident demeanor in his presence, admirers. However, the facade is beginning to unravel. Soon, we will be delving into the catastrophic information that Jelly Roll failed to disclose, intended to distribute. The truth regarding the tour has been ongoing beneath the music.travels, and the limelight. Additionally, the complete vision emerges, but one question persists in the atmosphere like fog. Is it possible for the man who emerged from the depths of adversity this autumn? Prior to the dazzling lights and billboard charts, prior to the sold-out event arenas and emotional award speeches, this individual was Jason Deford, a young man from the Nashville's Antioch District, Tennessee, a state in which aspirations were not frequently realized come true, and second chances were exceedingly rare. Provided. Born on December 4, 1984, Jason's childhood was characterized by a deep immersion in struggle. He was raised in a working-class environment. A mother who is grappling with mental illness resides in the residence. A father, health concerns, and addiction, who marketed meat from a vehicle in order to generate revenue. Both ends are satisfied. His surroundings were rough, unstable, and frequently unforgiving. Nevertheless, in the midst of that confusion, a young Jason discovered an unusual sense of solace in music, particularly the type that disclosed the truth. Rap music served as his sanctuary. He was attracted to artists who publicly disclosed their distress-like armor, like Tupac and 36 Mafia, men who transformed wounds into anthems. However, even as he began to compose lyrics and dreaming of a more significant endeavor, the streets were already beckoning. In accordance with the Jason experienced a fall during his adolescent years, into an existence that was consistent with the ones in the compositions he composed, revered, criminal activity, and incarceration. During at the age of 14, he was apprehended. For the initial occasion, he was in and out of the institution by the age of 16 of juvenile detention. Additionally, the duration is brief. He was subsequently confronted with a felony charge, a charge that would remain with him for an indefinite period years. For numerous individuals, this would have been the conclusion of the journey, a one-way ticket to there is no place. However, something within him declined to diminish silently. During the course of service, Jason began to refine his writing skills over time, abilities. He channeled his emotions into lyrics, composing verses in prison, cells, and fantasizing of a stage that he had never seen, not yet. It was not merely rehabilitation, it was survival. Additionally, upon his eventual exit, he adopted the moniker Jelly Roll, which was derived from a jocular term. As a rotund child, his mother provided him with and transformed it into a brutal brand sincerity. He commenced the sale of mixtapes from the following location, the cargo of his vehicle, performing at clandestine performances and collaborations with rappers from the southern region. The monotony was genuine. There are no administrators or budgets. There is only raw aptitude and an unwavering determination. His music addressed issues such as addiction and destitution, redemption, and broken households. Not to the same extent abstract themes, but as they are experienced, encounters. Gradually, the globe eye began to take note. However, triumph did not arrive overnight. For an extended period of time, Jelly Roll was disregarded by the mainstream as mere another clandestine operation. According to his appearance, often covered in tattoos, heavily set, and frequently emotional, it did not align with the refined image of popular culture. Nevertheless, this is what resulted in "He is genuine." This is the reason his fan base expanded, fervently devoted. They were not merely. They were alive while listening to his tunes. Them. In the background, Jelly Roll's life was also in a state of flux. He attained the status of an experience of being a father at a tender age that influenced him further than any single strike record ever could. Bailey, his daughter Anne, became the anchor in his tempest, the reason for his perseverance in the face of adversity. Otherwise, it appeared to be in a state of disarray. He later encountered Bunny. So, a podcaster and model who became not only his wife, but also his anchor that sustained him throughout assisting him in his most difficult moments, and fostering his faith once more in love. The family became the focal point of his world even while touring and establishing a reputation for himself. Jelly Roll ensured that his followers were informed of the truth. It was of significance to him, his spouse, his children, and the concept of creating a more meaningful legacy than the one from which he originated. Nevertheless, the demons were never entirely eradicated. He possesses been forthright about his enduring struggle with addiction and mental health, recognizing that the renown may. The pain did not mysteriously disappear as I have matured. Disappear. His ascent in the country music industry was not something that no one anticipated, not even him. However, when he transitioned into the genre, combining his unvarnished lyrics with twangy melodies and poignant narratives, it clicked. Suddenly, a completely new audience emerged. Jelly Roll was discovered. This was not observed by them. Not merely an artist, but a man who survived the type of pain that the majority of individuals experience, conceal oneself from. His breakthrough single, Lush, Son of a Sinner, he grasped the contradiction that resided within him. Thea tug-of-war between faith and defeat, between salvation and relapse. Song into a new echelon, earning him accolades, television appearances, and even an emotional, stately old opera debut. It was a full day for the child from Antioch. Circle incident that elicited tears from him, eyes and stillness to a room that was filled with folklore. However, as his reputation increased, the burden of his past never dissipated. Shoulders. Jelly Roll has frequently declared that he has no desire to become renowned. His intention is to have a significant impact. He aspires to be the voice that serves to persuade individuals who are broken that they are not alone. Additionally, that mission, although commendable, has an adverse impact. In the background, the pressure has increased. With every success arose an increased sense of accountability and anticipations, additional nights gazing at the ceiling, uncertain as to whether he was sufficient. Additionally, these fractures have recently begun to display. Longtime family members and insiders collaborators have suggested that the burden that Jelly Roll has been bearing, the past, the present, and his position as AI's a public figure, father, and husband, started to catch up with him. A tranquil environment health crisis, whispered concerns regarding burnout, and emotional tension that is the cause. The storm has been further exacerbated by the presence of closed doors. Swirling beneath the surface, he continues to exist, still providing, while smiling for the Camrashi's entire life to his admirers, but those who are acquainted with him, it is advisable to describe a change as shifting. He is retreating more, engaging in more in-depth reflection, grappling with the question of whether he can genuinely evade the agony that has consumed him for decades. The toll of health battles had been significant. Subsequent, a man who had previously overcome addiction was now confronted with an additional species of beast. Their relentless pressure to maintain everyone's loyalty, otherwise, while silently collapsing himself. The collapse was not the sole issue. Additional warning signs were present. A wasted opportunity, rarity for a podcast appearance with Bunny. This couple is so unified and transparent. A sudden break from social media. A sequence of interviews that were postponed without a clear clarification. The individual, who was previously engaged in the act of pouring out of his spirit online, had gone quiet, and fans began to take note. Afterward, the confession ensued. Not in a press release, not in a dramatic headline, but in a quiet, late-night live broadcast. In conjunction with his visage illuminated solely by a dim lamp, Jelly Roll, he addressed his followers not as a celebrity, but as a male who is experiencing discomfort. "I have not been feeling well," he acknowledged, his voice quivering. "Initially, I believed that I am capable of transporting it all. However, I am unable to do so. I have been terrified. I have been experiencing fatigue, and I have been disregarding my own warning signals for an extended period of time, excessively lengthy." He then proceeded to discuss the stress of performing while experiencing difficulty with panic attacks and anxiety. He acknowledged that he had relapsed into not drugs, but unhealthy behaviors, isolation, emotional eating, and pressing his physical limitations until his body eventually yielded, removed. What was the reason for the potency of the moment? It was not solely his honesty. It was his modesty. The man known as Jelly Roll, who was once gazed at the walls of prison and the scourge of addiction, was now acknowledging something, potentially even more difficult. That he was human and required provide assistance. In the days that followed, admirers supported him. Love messages, support, and comprehension were poured in from every cranny of the internet. His Bunny, her spouse, published her own post, which was candid. Message serving as a reminder to all that fortitude is not about maintaining a constant state of well-being. It is regarding the timing of pauses, healing, and request to be granted grace. However, as the smoke settled, a deeper truth was revealed, one that caused quite a stir, even his most devoted supporters. Medical professionals, they had realized that Jelly Roll was located ATA significant risk of developing long-term health complications if he did not alter his behavior of course. Chronic hypertension, cardiac warning symptoms, and stressol of the strains had been detected in recent examinations. The type of issues that were not addressed could prematurely terminate an individual's existence. He received a decision. Take A. Break and confront these, address the issues immediately, or risk being unavailable. Complete the legacy he has initiated. It was a wake-up call that was unavoidable. Silently, Jelly Roll initiated a process of restructuring everything. He withdrew from numerous forthcoming performances. He redirected his attention to recovery on a physical, emotional, and mental spiritually. He initiated a relationship with a therapist once more, this time in collaboration with a trainer and re-establishing a connection with the spiritual practices that he had renounced during Thea Flurry of Triumph. But more significantly, he began to engage in meaningful conversations with his family. To his daughter, Bunny, revealing regarding the anxieties that he had suppressed for an extended period of time. The truth is, the suffering never ceases. Completely departs from you. It simply discovers new locations for concealment. Supporters who have adhered to, for years, he has been aware that this is not the first time. He has endured a tempest. However, this one appears to be distinct. This is not a matter of rebounding, return from failure. It pertains to the selection. Often experience life to the fullest, regardless of whether you are feeling like you are causing damage, and that is what accounts for. This chapter is extremely impactful. A Jelly Roll is no longer merely the underdog who prevailed removed. He is the individual who occupies the summit. Recollecting the darkness and electing to proceed with certainty. Although this moment is catastrophic, it has the potential to become the most significant of his existence. Not at all due to the crisis itself, but as a result of his subsequent actions. Will he return with a more concentrated and resolute attitude? More deliberate? Will he accept the ultimately placed the reins of his health who preceded him? Alternatively, the weight of his expectations compel him to return to the routine that nearly brought an end to everything? No one without a doubt. But one thing is certain. The narrative of Jelly Roll is incomplete. It is still being composed line by line. Triumph by triumph, tragedy by heartbreak victory. Additionally, if this chapter has demonstrated, if anything is clear to us, it is that even our idol's healing is required. Therefore, as enthusiasts, the only thing we can do is. The current course of action is to wait and pray that the next opportunity arises. When he ascends to the stage, his objective is not solely to perform, not for us, but because he genuinely desires to be there, where they are robust, whole, and prepared to commence. For all the anguish, all the unedited lyrics, and all the sold-out arenas, Jelly Roll's most notable achievement may not be located on a Billboard chart, but in a discreet manner, he has influenced individuals' lives in ways that extend beyond the stage, as a result of the tattoos and the A-man who has constructed a legacy despite his problematic past legacy that is not solely based on accomplishment, but also on service. For many years, Jelly Roll has utilized his platform for purposes other than vanity, but rather for visibility for the underrepresented, the incarcerated, the addicted, and the heartbroken. He has not merely sung about redemption. He has experienced it firsthand. Additionally, he has reached back to drag others out of the flames as well. One of his most potent contributions were made upon his return to the same juvenile detention institution in Nashville, where he was previously detained teenager. Nevertheless, this time, he did not enter with his feet. As an inmate, he entered as a mentor. He made a donation, $250,000, to construct an indoor music studio. The facility, providing juvenile inmates with an outlet, a voice, and a purpose to believe that they could also revise their narratives. "I desired to provide these children with hope," he stated in a 2023 interview with CBS Mornings. "My life was rescued by music. Perhaps it has the potential to save their lives as well." His endeavors did not conclude at that point. Additionally, Jelly Roll has been a fervent proponent of mental health awareness, addiction recovery, and reform of the criminal justice system. He has addressed audiences at supported nonprofit recovery facilities, re-entry programs, and utilized his social media accounts. The following is intended to raise funds for families influenced by addiction. In an era when it is common for celebrities to avoid genuine situations, Jelly Roll addresses global concerns, them. Additionally, his relationship with his bunny, So, her spouse, has emerged as a beacon of light, affection, and recuperation. Collectively, they have transformed their podcast, Dumb Blonde, into a platform where trauma, rehabilitation, and redemption are openly debated, and the act of giving audiences are not only entertained, but spiritual sanctuary. Fans of Jelly Rolls more than mere supporters, they are survivors. His concerts are less reminiscent of shows and more akin to group therapy sessions in which strangers participate in singing along to their own anguish and recovery. Additionally, that perhaps this is the essence of his influence. He established a community. He has been granted a voice to individuals who experienced feelings of invisibility. He possesses demonstrated that your past does not determine the future. He has served as a reminder that redemption is feasible, albeit complicated. Furthermore, right now, as he confronts one of the most challenging chapters of his existence, Jelly Rolls, the urgency of legacy is at an all-time high. Not at all because of faith, not terror. The conviction that the individual who emerged from the boulder, the bottom, may ascend once more. This time, not for the sake of fame or praise, but for himself. The narrative of Jelly Roll is not affable. It is not neat, polished, or predictable. It is a battle card ballad, one that is blighted by poor decisions and shattered brave comebacks, unfinished, business, and souls lines. However, this is precisely what renders it so. Potent, because when Jelly Roll takes a stride, he presents every aspect of himself to the stage, share a narrative with him. Additionally, upon his departure away from the limelight, it serves as a reminder that, unfortunately, even our heroes are susceptible to bleeding. Even the strongest voices occasionally require a break. Furthermore, the individual who initially gave us confidence we are required now more than ever. Therefore, if he has ever sought solace in his music, have you ever found that lyrics have been a source of comfort during if his voyage reminded him of a sleepless night? If you believe that regeneration is feasible, then this is your opportunity to support him. Transmit, give him compassion and encouragement as he recovers. Furthermore, should you be confronted with your own conflict, please allow. His narrative serves as a reminder. You are not alone. You are significant. And it is never too late. It is too late to commence anew. Similar to this video, subscribe and activate the notification button while we are observing and waiting and eagerly anticipating the subsequent chapter.